I've just pressed the go live button now, so everyone's missed the big intro, but I got it on the pod, luckily. Welcome to the podcast. Cardiff Review, Coventry Preview. Welcome to everybody on the stream. Thanks for joining us this evening on a Monday evening. Welcome to everybody on the audio pod. And also, this is going out on Twitter Spaces. Now, this is a very experimental feature. I wonder if it's working. Start your space now. All right. Start. While I'm doing this, welcome to Athers. Joe, great to have you back for your first appearance of the 21-22 season. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers. Thanks very much for having me.
Welcome, Nick, after a very heavy weekend. So many thanks for coming on, staying up well past your bedtime.
Yes, it was a long old day, and it's funny how the older you get, the longer it takes to recover it. It used to be a day, but I'm still not feeling brilliant now, to be honest.
So what did you get up to pre-match?
Drinking. We went Highfield Road. Went to the new little micro pub there, Jimmy's place. I don't know if you've been. JD Drinkwaters. Very nice ale.
He used to be
the Dunes.
Landlord at the Dunes, didn't he, Jimmy?
Yeah. And the Grapes. Yeah. So good to see that open. And then we went to the Armfield after that, pre-match, and then post-match, and then carried on until the early hours of Sunday morning in St Anne's. And I got home on Sunday morning. I know. And Faye just looked at me and went, "Go to bed." So I did, and got up at, I think, after the Man City Spurs game. Yeah.
How did you get home from?
I stayed at my mates in Lytham,
right,
and then went home in the morning feeling the worse for wear, to say the least. But yeah, football's back, so might as well use your brownie points up early doors.
Yeah. Now, Matt, I believe you've been earning brownie points in lieu of your trip to Bournemouth away. Have you accrued enough points? And
I have, yes.
Well done, mate.
I'll sacrifice the Wednesday, and I was on my relatively best behaviour over the weekend. So, so I got the tickets for Bournemouth. So, looking forward to that monstrous away trip in one day. And as you can tell, my throat's gone from the weekend. Chest infection, feeling great, and a 2-0 defeat has not helped at all.
You're doing that in a day?
Yeah. I think we're setting off about 6-ish in the morning. Arrive, I'm guessing between 1 and 2 at best. And then, as long as we'll just get home. We'll probably pass Nick on the way if he's still out.
Who's the designated driver then?
Oh, we're splitting it. We're splitting it between the lot of us. So, everyone's doing a quarter of the leg each or whatever. So it's the only fair way, really.
Speaking of monstrous journeys, Joe, I believe you had a planes, trains and automobiles experience of your own to get back to deepest, darkest Rotherham after the game.
Yeah, I thought I didn't fancy doing it on the Saturday because, one, I just hate travelling back on the same day as a game, and two, it's always worse when you're losing it. You just sat there stewing in your own juices, and half the time you get bloody away fans on the bloody train as well. So I didn't fancy that. So decided, in my infinite wisdom, I'd go on the Sunday. Got to Blackpool North, and only to be greeted by a guard that told me that a train had broke down between Polton and Blackpool, and it was blocking the line. So there was no trains out of Blackpool North in 90 minutes. That was fantastic. Got to Leeds for my first change. Missed my connecting train by 2 minutes. So with it being Sunday, had to wait another 45 minutes. Got to Meadow Hall and got off the train, and my chair was starting to run out as I was going up the hill. So I needed to go into the waiting room and charge my chair for an hour. So yeah, long story short, a 3-hour journey took me 7. I could have gone to Florida in that time to get from Blackpool North to Rotherham. Brilliant. And we lost 2-0 as well. So yeah, great weekend.
You ain't from New York City, you're from Rotherham. That's the Arctic Monkeys famously wants to check. Maybe hook yourself up to find a Tesla charging point next time. Maybe give yourself a bit of a boost before you go home next time.
I'm doing it all again.
That.
I'm doing it all again tomorrow as well.
Sean, our accredited journalist friend, has just popped up. Arthur's on a convincing defeat. Christ, I better run home from my shift. That's why I can ramble about data to cover it.
Yeah, you're not going to get any X goals at any of that nonsense from me.
You've also got an admirer has just popped up. Miss Leanne Smith, hello. Who is the young dashing boy you have?
That's it. I owe her a pie now for that.
Several pies, I've heard, isn't it?
Yeah, she loves a pie.
Yeah, they had pies on in the Armfield, didn't they? I saw on the they put on the Twitter feed. Good new innovation. Right, shall we talk about the game if we must? See on the little graphic about there. Cardiff beat us 2-0. Matt, let's come to you first with the lineup, because quite a few of us weren't happy about this, were we, at the time? And it was, I've not made a graphic, not at the time. It was Maxwell, Connolly, Keogh, Husband, Garbutt, Dougal, Ward, Hamilton, Anderson, John Jules, and Jerry Yates up top. So no place for Bowler, no place very much deserved for Shane Lavery. Explain to me the logic behind that.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't go on Wednesday night to accrue the brownie points. So I didn't. It was Wednesday night when we played Borough, wasn't it? Or was it Tuesday? I can't remember. Anyway, midweek anyway. So I didn't see this. Performances that Lavery and Bowler had put in, which apparently warranted these potential starting 11 slots. But I wasn't surprised really that he didn't vary much from the Bristol City game, to be honest. I thought my only surprise was that John Jules started again. I thought he might have just tweaked it, possibly, like you say, possibly with Lavery, possibly with Bowler, possibly with Anderson behind just Yates, and then another one in midfield, something along those lines. But equally, when I saw the starting 11, I wasn't surprised at all that, we've gone from last year not being able to select an 11 because Critchley's got his own sort of agenda. And, we're 2 games into this season already, and we're just, still sort of none the wiser. And I'm sure come tomorrow night, we'll all have different starting 11s, and we've just got to go with whatever he picks. And I didn't actually think it was that bad a starting 11 at all. We'll go on about the game itself. So I wasn't disappointed. I mean, how many wholesale changes can you make after one game and a reserve fixture, basically?
A reserve fixture. It's a bit harsh.
Well, I mean, they're not treated as, priority games, are they? Carabao Cup games, let's be honest. So, yeah, it's like I said, I wasn't there on Wednesday to see how good these performances were from the 2 lads I mentioned. So I wasn't surprised that it, like I said, he went back to sort of type, as it were, and went back to the Bristol City pretty much formation.
Nick, over to you now. If you look at from the comment from David Coleman, if NC had gone with the team you lot picked, we'd have done a lot better. That's very, very good of you to say that, David.
Yeah, well, I wasn't involved in the picking of that, but yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Similar to Matt, I wasn't massively surprised that he went with a similar lineup, even after Wednesday night. Whether that will have changed his mind now for tomorrow night, I suppose we'll find out. Was the plan to try and keep it tight for an hour or so, 70 minutes, and then bring Lavery and Bowler off from the bench, to have an impact, possibly. But as we'll come to talk about, I think it was men against boys, wasn't it? They were a bit land of the giants and very well organised, typical Mick McCarthy side. So whether it would have made any difference, I don't know. We'll see what he does tomorrow, whether he's going to change it up. I think if I was Big Marv, I'd maybe knocking on the manager's door and asking to get a start, because I don't think he'd do any worse. That's for sure. I'd like to see him back in.
Well, listeners, viewers, you're in for a shock when you see the team that I've picked, but we'll come on to that later. For the Cov team, caused a bit of a furore in the green room beforehand. Joe, over to you. If you avert your eyes to that comment from Mister, appears to be a seal. I still can't understand the John Jules signing. Don't think he's championship level. So that aside, do you think he warrants a place in the starting 11, given the form Shane Lavery's been showing in the previous 2 games?
I think Nick put it best. It's easy to say things in hindsight. I mean, there's like 10,000 Blackpool fans there on Saturday. You'd probably have about 6,000-7,000 different starting lineups with little different, nuances. At the end of the day, Neil Critchley's the one that sees them day in, day out in training. He's going to know who his best players are to pick for every game. Every game's different, as he always says. Sean makes a good comment there about John Jules being hung out to dry. I noticed second half, especially when they were attacking the North, John Jules was making a lot of good runs, but the ball wasn't being played forward to him. So it's easy to say, oh, he's useless, oh, he's doing nothing. Same with Jerry Yates. It's easy to say, oh, he's not having the same form that he did towards the end of last season. If he's not getting the ball from the midfield, not going to be able to have a shot or score, is he? Simple as that.
Yeah. Sean's just said, where was it? I would have gone with the pod team, but we just lacked physicality in the centre of midfield. Damn right. And a lack of trust in our ability to play in tight areas. Marlon Pack won that game. I think lack of physicality up front as well. Every single ball seemed to be coming back, Matt. And the early stages of the game, the warning signs were there, weren't they? Blackpool very lucky to be on terms with 15 minutes gone.
Yeah, I mean, there was. Is this the one where he hit the bar? I can't remember at what time that was.
Well, there was
several. Oh, he's the save one-on-one, wasn't it?
Husband's cock up.
Yeah,
Maxwell getting out of the hole.
That's right.
Yeah, there was Hayden Flint's down to the header, and they've hit the bar. Yeah.
Ultimately, there was 4 or 5 opportunities, shall we say, for Cardiff to open the scoring, and. Husband definitely was at fault for one of them, and then it was, you knew what you were going to get from Cardiff when you sort of saw the big lads come up from the back, and obviously, they have the capabilities of launching it in from any angle, like Burton did against us last season, and. We just,
but Matt, like you just said, Matt, it was coming from both wings, wasn't it? And it was a relentless surge of crosses.
That's right, and we just haven't got the physicality to cope with it. And I think we could have done a little bit better on certain occasions. I'm not quite sure if we're marked zonally or whatever they call it, but it didn't seem to me like we had the best players against their main threats, i.e., you got these 2 centre halves on, and Keogh and whoever our next tallest player is weren't necessarily near them, and it just seemed to be a little bit of a head scratcher a lot of times. So we didn't help ourselves. But I mean, fair play to Cardiff. The strong, the big, the direct, the horrible. Remind me of a rich man's Gillingham, I suppose, and Burton, like I mentioned earlier. And they're very good at what they do, and you can't really sort of argue against it. We're just a little bit naive and wet behind the ears, aren't we, in this division at the moment? And we'll come across a few more Cardiff types, I'm sure. Maybe not as many in terms of their directness, but, they're a big, strong, physical outfit, and we've just got to muscle up and get stuck in a little bit more before we properly get our bottom slapped by somebody.
So, Nick, one of my overriding thoughts in the first half was there's a gulf in class here. In pretty much every area across the park, in physicality and closing us down, speed of the pass, getting balls into the box, and it was a real wake-up call, wasn't it?
Yeah, and, welcome to the Championship. Like Matt says, there'll be other teams like Cardiff, and we're going to have to get used to that, you're going to have a second less on the ball. If you make a mistake, you're going to get punished. There's not just the physicality of it. And you look at defensively, in midfield and in attack, they were better in every area on the day, weren't they? And looking at our defence, I mean, like you say, Keogh and Husband at centre half. We've got Connolly not in his best position.
It's a lower league centre half pairing, that, isn't it?
Well, you could argue it's not as good as our best pairing in League One last season.
That's a very valid argument. I think so.
And look, Neil Critchley knows what he's doing, doesn't he? And he'll be looking at that. They'll watch the game back and they know where they need to improve. And I don't expect that to necessarily be our centre-half pairing going through the season. The transfer window's still open. We've got players to come back. I certainly expect Gretterson to be back in when he's fit. So, we shouldn't be pressing the panic button just yet because we're 2 games in and look where we were after 6, 7, 8 games last season. All right, granted, the difference is in this league, it's a step up, isn't it? So we do need some quality in the team, that's for sure. A couple of signings, but yeah, they were the better side, and even the most biased Blackpool fan, couldn't disagree with that. We didn't deserve a point. We deserved to get beat, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think after seeing Bristol in the flesh last weekend when I went away and seeing Cardiff today, there was if they're not 10 places apart at the end of the season, I'll be very surprised. Bristol City are not a patch on Cardiff, and it showed basically.
Joe, the incident when Luke Garbutt had that free kick in pretty much exactly the same position when Charlie bagged in that famous free kick one in 2010. It was quite a good moment, wasn't it, when the North Stand started up the chant as one Charlie Adam?
Yeah, it was, but after that build-up, it was either going straight in the wall or Rose Ed, and I think it went straight into the wall, didn't it?
Pitiful free kick, wasn't it? And Luke Garbutt, we were told he was this dead ball specialist, free kick specialist. We yet to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nappers has said that Connolly isn't bad at free kicks, so maybe Coventry tomorrow we get a free kick in a similar position, give him a go over Garbutt, because like you say, he really hasn't delivered in the free kick or set piece department.
I mean, Joe, what was your abiding thoughts at half time? Did you think there is such a gulf here in class between the two sides?
At half time, I was very thankful it was 0-0. Maxwell was superb. He made 2 or 3 really good saves. The one-on-one, he seems to be really good at one-on-ones. I can't remember many one-on-ones where he's let us down. The one where it looked to be a cross into the area, no Cardiff player got on the end of it and he just tipped it round the post. And I still have no idea how they didn't score when the ball was rolled across the 6-yard area and it got blasted over the bar from literally about 4 yards. We really did ride our luck. I mean, a lot of people pointing fingers, digging players out. At the end of the day, I just think we got beat by a far superior team. And that's going to happen a lot in this division. There's a lot of teams. I mean, I think Cardiff, I'm not 100% sure. Did they finish just outside the playoffs last season?
Yeah.
I think they've still
out, I think.
Haven't they got a bit of parachute payment still as well? They're doing the Premier League.
I think they've run out now. I think that's it. I think that's the
right.
fourth,
Okay.
Fourth
I mean,
still playing silly money for players, though, aren't they? Like most of the Championship
I mean, when
teams,
you can bring a player like Kiefer Moore off the bench, do you know what I mean? It's not bad, is it?
Yeah.
But yeah, we just got beat by a better team, and I think people have to realise as well, we do have a lot of injuries, and we've had a very disrupted pre-season with COVID and players getting injured, like Dougal and Stewart. These are players that if one of them plays, the other doesn't, and vice versa. We're having square pegs in round holes at the beginning of the season. I think our best centre-back pairing is probably Gretterson, who's still injured, and Connolly, who's having to play at right-back at the minute. I'm not overly worried at the minute. I want to see where we are at the end of the transfer window. And then after that, I want to see where we are Christmas before I start hitting the panic button.
Yeah.
I've learnt my lessons from last year when I was thinking, Critchley's rubbish after 9 games. I'll hold my hand up. I was one of them people. And I got it absolutely wrong.
The thing is, like Cardiff, like I mentioned before, Cardiff will be anywhere between 1st and 8th, let's say 9th, probably, something like that. We realistically are not going to be probably 7 or 8 places. We're going to be 15th, 16th, 17th. Maybe we might squeeze a little bit higher than that. Hopefully, we won't get any much lower than that. And this is where getting a point away at Bristol is actually more important in a way than losing against Cardiff. We've just got to pick up points against teams that will no doubt be around us come, April, May, whatever. But you know, it's 2 games in. We've got 1 point, and all right, it's not like you say, there's no need to hit any sort of panic buttons yet. We've got a few players out. We've got hopefully 1 or 2 that might come in, and you know, we've got to be hopeful and optimistic that Critchley, when he gets these players together, we can start turning a few sort of draws into wins eventually, and whatever. You know, I mean, I'm quite optimistic about tomorrow night. I think Coventry will be a completely different opposition for us. They look a little bit more lightweight. I mean, I don't think we'll see any more physical side than Cardiff. So, you know, it could be a good open game, and it might be one that we might actually thrive in.
Nick, I think that it'll be a good yardstick tomorrow against Coventry, because I think they're, you know, a club that's been in the doldrums, and they did very well to get promoted last year, and they've consolidated in the Championship. But I think they're a club at a similar sort of level to us, maybe a bit more advanced. So I think that'll be a good indicator of where we are squad wise.
Yeah, I'd agree. And like Matt's just said, you know, teams like Cardiff who are going to be in that top 10, it's probably not where we're looking to get our points from. It's more like tomorrow night. So hopefully it'll be a bit more of an open game. You know, we've not seen much of CJ, have we, so far? And then in the middle of the park, creativity's been an issue for us, hasn't it? So hopefully it is a bit more open. We might get some of that. And because I think on Saturday, you know, we had a couple of passengers, didn't we, where the likes of CJ, you rely on his pace, and if he's not getting in behind or getting past his winger, then there's not really a lot happening. Similarly with Cashew, I think it's probably, as we said before we came on, better as a number 10. And you've got to get the service to the front too as well, or else, you know, there's not a lot going to happen. So hopefully some of that will happen tomorrow, and we get. I don't know how far away the players who are injured are from coming back. I tell you, we missed on Saturday Gary Medine, just somebody up front to do a bit of what they were doing to us, you know, and hang on to the ball for a second. Maybe bring Jerry Yates into play, a bit of, you know, as we like to say, football shithousery, and because that's what they're doing, wasn't it? And you can't argue with it. And I think that's what we needed up front, a bit of Gary Medine.
Yeah. So a wily, physical old McCarthy side. He's still got it, hasn't he? He's a good manager. He's a decent bloke as well. I noticed him shaking all hands of all the Blackpool players as they came off the end. So I
noticed that as well. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. Just back to the game then, Joe. Talk us through Cardiff's opening 52 minutes. Bakuna's just headed it in from close range, easy header.
Yeah,
it was coming. That type of goal was coming all game, wasn't it? It was not a surprise at all to see a goal like that going.
Our Achilles heel, and it's not just now. It was most of last season as well. We don't deal very well with the older balls into the box, whether it be a corner or them devastating long throws, which Cardiff used to their effect. And you got to just say fair play to your strengths. I know it's not pretty, but at the end of the day, Cardiff went away with the points. We ended up with 0, and it was another long ball, long throw into the box, not dealt with. Ironically, one of their shorter players that got on the end of it just seemed to go over everybody and unmarked at the back post, simplest of headers.
Yeah, pandemonium in the Cardiff end. Just a quick note about the Cardiff fans. Was a bit of argy-bargy, wasn't there, before and after the games in the Armfield? So they were up to the usual tricks. But that's the game anyway. Substitution, Matt, on 63 minutes. Josh Bowler came on for CJ Hamilton, who had perhaps one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. Couldn't trap a bag of cement, I think, is the describing.
I fear he's getting found out quite quickly, isn't he, in this division? He's not got the sort of skill of, the feet. He's just raw pace, isn't he? So in a game where, you know, he's up against somebody who's a bit more clued up and organised, as Cardiff's back four were, he was just anonymous, really, and he's you get more balls sort of bouncing off his knee than anything else, unfortunately. And, you know, as much as I think most of us and all of us, well, I'll say all of us, I think most of us like CJ, and we want him to do really well, obviously. But I do have my concerns about him, I must admit, at this particular level. I think it might just be a division too far for him, even at this early stage. I mean, when Bowler came on, the first thing he did was turn, ran at the guy and got a corner. And that hadn't happened for 60 minutes at it. And then he did, a few other runs, and I could see what I'd missed on Wednesday night in very brief flashes. So, hopefully he'll take a bit of encouragement from that. And as we'll go on and talk about potentially the lineup for tomorrow, I'm sure he'll have more of an active part to play.
So, Nick, as Bowler came on, there was a lift of the general malaise. To quote someone who's not here today. His middle-class holiday in, where is he? The Cotswolds or something. And there was, a bit of a lift when he came on, wasn't there? And Grant Ward got his bit between the teeth, and what a strike from 71 nicks, a 30-yarder. I think I wasn't the only person who was just about to say, what the fucking hell are you shooting from there for?
Yeah, you did wonder, didn't you? But my God, he caught it well, and good save by the keeper, to be fair, to tip it over. And and I think it was, as Sean mentioned, the response from the crowd after we went 1-0 down. It was probably as loud as it had been all game, and it had been loud all game, particularly the North. Absolutely brilliant and non-stop. And you can't ask for more than that as fans, can you? To have support like that when you go a goal behind. And it was just nothing, and not a lot had been happening up to that point, had it? So it was good to see a little bit of creativity. We got a shot in, and I think Bowler, I've not seen a lot of him, but at least he's trying to make something happen. And his final ball probably isn't always great, but then CJ's wasn't, was it? So it'd be interesting to see if he plays in tomorrow night. But a bit of a lift, and again, when Lavery came on as well, they just look like they want to make something happen. They try and make it happen, and that gets the crowd going, doesn't it? Which is good to see.
Lavery chucking Flint into the advertising orders. Probably my favourite part of the match, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's about a foot tall of him as well, wasn't he?
No fear, good lad.
Do you know who Lavery reminds me of, sort of build-wise? He reminds me a bit of Rooney. He's quite sort of stocky, isn't he? And
I was talking to a mate of mine who's a Cardiff fan on, it was Thursday rather, and I was trying to explain his physicalities, and that's exactly what I said. I said he's just like a little Wayne Rooney sort of thing. But I think he's got a bit of spunk about him, hasn't he? And you can't argue with him the fact that he's up for the fight, and that's all you want, isn't it? When you got your back against the wall and you're struggling and you're trying to make an impression, and he's obviously got a real opportunity here. He's a young lad who hasn't had for whatever reason, he hasn't had much of a sniff anywhere else, obviously, other than Linfield last year. And, I think he's already become a bit of a fan's favourite, hasn't he, in terms of his attitude, and that's what you need. Can't argue with that.
No. So, Nick, on 82 minutes, we had that cynical foul by Joel Bagan on Lavery right in front of the West. They even had people off the feet in the West. There was flasks going everywhere, tartan scarves being tossed around. C-bombs being dropped by, might have been me. I was raging when he did that, and it made me even angrier when one of their players went up to him and he gave him sort of an underhand high five, saying like, nice one. But
and it's one of those, isn't it? He knew exactly what he's doing. He's taken one for the team because he was breaking clear at that point, and it's just annoying, isn't it? When it's not a red, but it's almost like a yellow doesn't seem enough because it's just so cynical. There's no attempt to play the ball whatsoever. Knew exactly what he was doing. But if you're a Cardiff fan, you're loving it, aren't you? Because it stopped us. It stopped us breaking away. But frustrating, that's for sure.
I mean, just generally to the room then. When you see an ultra cynical foul like that happens, do you think there's a case for changing the rules of the game and that becoming a red card when there's absolutely no attempt to play the ball whatsoever?
No, because knowing our luck, our players would probably just start doing it when that rule came into effect. We just wise up. I think that's our problem. We're too nice. We need to be an absolute set of bastards like Cardiff were. And you hate it. You hate players like Flint when they're not on your team.
But when they are, you love it.
Yeah, exactly. We're lacking that. I think the nearest thing we've got is probably Husband, if you remember that tackle at Southend.
Disgrace.
He just absolutely ploughed through him for no reason.
So there was no ambiguity in the colour of the card when that happened, was it?
No, not at all.
This is quite interesting.
Yeah,
what Sean's just said there. It is a red under the law's violent conduct, but refs rarely punish it. I mean, he could have injured him, couldn't he? The way he
I bet they'd punish it if we did it. We always seem to get them referees that.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're right.
Normally I wouldn't do this, but you're wearing a tangerine shirt, so off you go.
Yes, Andy is an underhand high five, a low five. Yeah, good description. Chris Harrison just made a good point there. This was the first card show, and the ref didn't seem like he wanted the paperwork. He did. Matt, you're nodding your head there. He left a lot of bad challenges go, didn't he? And I think he should have started brandishing the cards earlier, and it might have stopped them from doing these type of tackles.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I think that it's the cleverness, isn't it, that we mentioned earlier, and the I wouldn't say cuteness particularly of how Cardiff play, but they share it around. So therefore, you're not going to have the guy in the middle of the park doing 10 consecutive fouls. It'll be the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. So the referee can't necessarily look at one player and say, because you know what it's like. Let's say, I don't know, Grant Ward's in the middle of our park and he fouls 3 consecutive fouls in 10 minutes. He's going to get a yellow card. Whereas they'll spread it around amongst 7 or 8 players. And I think that's how they do it. And that's how a lot of teams are wiser to do sort of things than we are. So I don't necessarily blame the referee, but I did when the yellow card was given out, it was thinking, yeah, we've played 70 odd minutes and that's the first card. I mean, it's not been a tidy game, particularly where you don't necessarily notice these things happening. But like I say, there's no accumulation effect. It's just spread out amongst the team. So, speaking of the referee, Nick, just before Cardiff got their second, there was a very controversial incident where there was what looked like a blatant handball where I was sat the balls. Hit their defender pretty quick. Was it from
Flint? I think.
What was it? Was it Flint?
Yeah, because there's a picture of him pointing to his arm at the north stand and smiling after they scored.
Is there really? There really?
Like I said, everyone loves a shit house only when they're playing for them.
Mm. Yeah, and I thought it was handball at the time, and saw it on Quest or whatever it was yesterday, and it didn't change my mind. I don't get it really. His arm was out, and I just thought it was a definite handball. I know it was hit quite hard, but you
looking at it on the replay, the referee's vision is blocked.
Is it obscure?
And it did happen very, very quickly.
Hmm. I think there was a player, Joe, wasn't there, in between the incident and the referee?
But there's a linesman as well, isn't there?
Well, yeah. I think if we had VAR, that'd have been a definite pen. But if that goes in, it'd have been completely undeserved.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, we're knocking that in. It's 1-1. Crowd are behind us. Bowler's on. Lavery's on. And we'd have gone for a winner, and it could have been completely different.
I mean, I said at half time. No, I said at half time, if we can keep it 0-0 till 65, 70 minutes, they might actually run out of, they just came with a plan A, didn't they? And obviously that's worked for them last season and so far this season. But equally they get frustrated even more, and we might just get a bit more pressure on them. But obviously conceding so early in the second half just obviously ruined that idea. But had we have got that penalty, I'm sure the last 15 minutes would have been very interesting. But it's all hindsight, ifs and buts and ands and all that, isn't it? Unfortunately,
it could have been. It just could have. We wouldn't have deserved it, but it could have gone so different. We could have shithoused our way to a win there, couldn't we? But they've just gone down the other end a minute later, haven't they? And Kiefer Moore's headed in. Fantastic ball in, though, wasn't it?
A good ball out to the wing. Yeah, and you're thinking, is he going to run it into the corner? And sees the run and floated the cross perfectly, and a great header. And it's just, it's the way it goes, isn't it? When you're pushing forward, there's a chance you can get hit on the counter attack, and and that was that 2-0 job done. And I think we've got to be honest and say I know we could have had that penalty, but I think over the course of 90 minutes, Cardiff were the better team and deserved the win.
I'd rather they do that in the 86th or whatever minute it was, after we're trying to go for it and get that
an equaliser.
Then just play like we did in the first half, where there was very little forward momentum or impetus. I don't mind us, trying to play the way that we're playing and trying to get that equaliser and conceding on the break. I'd rather do that than the way we played in the first half.
Yeah,
you want to absolutely outclassed.
You want to die trying, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
No point,
don't mind that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to player ratings then. Nick, let's start with you. Chris Maxwell could have been 5, 6, 7, wasn't for Maxi.
Yeah, it could. I mean, he's let 2 goals in, but couldn't do anything with either of them. And like you say, it could have been a lot more without him. His defence didn't help him at all. So I think overall I would go a 7 for Chris Maxwell.
7?
Plus.
Come on. Okay. The international fielding player rating system. Joe, you can have Callum Connolly.
6 with the caveat that he's not right back.
Yeah. Matt Richard Keogh.
So I'm just wondering why we've signed him full stop, if I'm honest. I just, when you think about all these young lads that have come in and then when I signed a 33-year-old guy, I'm starting to think something's not quite right there really with our transfer thing. And he wasn't great last week at Bristol. Was okay. I don't know what I gave him last week at Bristol, but he wasn't great on Saturday. I think there's definitely work to be done in the middle, but he's an old head, and you just expect a little bit more from him, possibly. But he's up against a decent outfit. I don't know, 5. I might be generous to a lot of people. It might be harsh. I don't know. 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. James' husband, Nick, not one of his best games. Calamitous error in the first 5, but got away with it.
Yeah, I think if we're giving Keogh a 5, it's probably no more for husband. Unfortunately, it's a 4 or a 5. I'll go 4 plus in the middle. It wasn't a great day for him, that's for sure.
Luke Garbutt.
What was disappointing? I'll just chip in. What's disappointing with both the centre halves is that I didn't actually mind it if they'd have actually just lumped a few. We were just going nowhere with a lot of passes on Saturday, and I know they might have got swallowed up, but you just sort of hit the channels a bit, and you never know what might have happened. But anyway, it's after the Med show very much, isn't it? Sorry, I interrupted.
Luke Garbutt, Joe.
I like Luke Garbutt. I think he was excellent last season for us, but going off that showing Saturday, a 5. Offered very little going forward and pretty shaky at the back as well.
I don't think he's not very good in a 4-4-2, is he? He's a pure left back. Yeah. Kenny Dougal, Matt. Not the best game for Kenny again.
No, I mean there's a player who was missed pre-season and has just got thrown into the deep end, wasn't he? I mean he's not the Kenny Dougal that we saw last season at all. I thought he actually got better when he picked the ball up off the goalkeeper and the centre halves later on, but it was a bit too late by that point. So I think another 5 out of 10.
Can sense a theme here. Grant Ward again. That shot aside, Nick. A lot of misplaced passes, and he looks half the player from last year. The games I've seen.
Yeah. I don't think he's found his feet yet. He did have that very good chance, but other than that, I'm struggling. It's probably 5 or 6. Maybe I'll give him a 6 for that shot, but wasn't great.
What about 6 minus?
6 minus, yes.
From the IFPRS. International Fielding Player Rating Systems. Right, Joe, you're going to have a good one here. Could be a very low score. CJ Hamilton.
4. Just pretty anonymous.
It's hard to argue with that. Matt Keshi shoved out on the left. A lot of the Kais about Keshi this season, and they're thrown out to the left and reducing his effectiveness.
Exactly. I felt sorry for him last week when he was definitely on the left hand side at Bristol as well. And it's not where you see the best of him, is it? Let's be honest. But I think he's just shoved out there almost out of necessity, really. But it was I don't know. I thought he was the best of the 3 or 2 or 3 in the midfield, but you just want him to be more central. I do anyway. I'll give him a 5+.
John Jules, Nick.
It's a tough one because there's so little service. It's probably a 5, but it's hard, isn't it, when he's not getting a decent ball? He was making some decent runs, but if he doesn't get the ball on the end of those runs, it's very hard for him to do anything and get into the game. We will see if he stays in the team and he gets the right service. Then who knows? That I don't think we can write him off after a couple of games. But similar with Jerry Yates as well. He got nothing either, did he? So it's I do have a degree of sympathy for them. But then again, you look at when Lavery comes on and the way he runs about and goes and makes things happen. A different type of players, granted, but it can't just be you've got to wait for it all the time. But we were massively lacking creativity, that's for sure.
And finally, Joe, Jezza.
I'm going to go 5.5. He had one half chance, what he put wide in the first half, which I think was really our only decent chance we had in the first half. Second half, again, very much like John Jules, made loads of runs, didn't get the ball. The effort, as always, was there, but just nothing really came off for him.
Okay, over on to man of the match, Matt.
This will be easy.
No. Slim pickings apart from one player.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for Maxwell, it would have been 3 or 4 at half time, wouldn't it? So it has to be Maxi for me.
Maxi for me as well, Nick.
Yeah, I was maybe a bit harsh with my 7+, but he was my man of the match. Like you say, it'd have been 2 or 3 more without him. That's for sure.
Joe, is it a clean sweep?
Yeah, it's got to be James' husband. No, I'm only kidding. It's Chris Maxwell.
Oh, your little funster, you. Right, that was Cardiff reviewed. Now let's move on to the Coventry preview. We're playing Coventry City tomorrow at Bloomfield Road, 7:45 kickoff. I'll just change the little overlay. Did I do a Coventry one? No, I didn't. I just not uploaded it. So let's bring this one up first then. Quite interesting to see this statistic. We've only played them 32 times. I was quite surprised when I did my research on that. And Nick, we've won 17, drawn 5 and lost 10. So we appear to have the upper hand on Coventry as well, like we did against Cardiff. But it was much good, did it?
It didn't, no. And like we say, it's going to be interesting to see what sort of game it is tomorrow night. I suppose... only played them 32 times. Obviously, they were... I mean, I remember the first time we came up to the Championship and we were playing Coventry, and it was like... They're still considered a big team. Obviously, they've had their ups and downs, but historically, they were, in the first division and the Prem for quite a while. So, and obviously, we were at the other end of the divisions for a lot of those years. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we do tomorrow.
So, Joe, as we had a quick chat, didn't we, in the green room beforehand? I was picking your brains about Coventry. I think you know more than the rest of us. I do know he's managed by Bart Robbins, who's a decent manager, isn't he?
Yeah, I used to go to uni in Coventry, so...
Sent to Coventry, did you?
I did, I literally... Why do I always end up in these dumps? Bloody Blackpool to Coventry to Rotherham. Can't go to anywhere like, Vegas... New York.
Blackpool is the Vegas of the North.
Well, yeah, that is true. But I used to go watch them with mates, and when they were in the Premier League, Highfield Road, and
Jimmy Hill
and all that. But the fans have suffered pretty similar to us. Another one of the old basket case clubs that have. Been treated very well by the top brasses at the EFL.
Do I detect hints of sarcasm there?
Slightly, yeah. They're back in their own stadium now, which has been renamed the Coventry Building Society Stadium, which
I've got my cash ice with them.
But,
quite a good interest rate, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say you thought you did. It's probably been reinvested in a striker or something.
Yeah.
They've got a 10-year lease at the stadium now, and I believe that they're going to be looking to move again so they can get their own stadium. This is
Bloody
only
hell.
like 10 years they're going to be back. That's how long they've signed the lease for.
Oh.
And I
It's a
think that
nice
they're going to
stadium
be.
as well, isn't
It
it?
is.
Nice
The
game.
problem was it's a bit of a white elephant, a bit too big for them. I think it holds
We went there once, Matt. Do you
32,000.
remember?
We did, yeah.
Do you remember? Yeah.
Yeah, was that an evening match or was it just in
Yeah,
winter
it was-
when it was dark and
It was
wet and
a
horrible?
long time ago. I remember
Yeah.
a never-ending trudge from where we parked the car to get to the
That's
ground.
right. Yeah,
Oh.
There's
exactly.
literally nothing.
There's
around
nothing
the
around
stadium.
there. No.
I think there's a big Tesco, and that's it.
It was dark, wasn't it? And
Yeah, I don't remember the result, but probably in hindsight, I probably should have gone to the Tesco and just done my big shop and put it in your boot.
Nick, so how do you think we're going to get on against them tomorrow? Like I said in the Cardiff bit, I think this is going to be a yardstick, and I think it's going to be a lot more of an even game than the Cardiff game.
Yeah, and hopefully there's a bit of a reaction after Saturday. It's, as we've said, it will be interesting to see what the lineup is. I think if Lavery's in and Bowler maybe a bit more attacking, and we can go at it from the off, and hopefully we can get the result. There's no reason why not. Put Saturday behind us and go for it. Should be another decent crowd and decent atmosphere. So yeah, hopefully we'll get the 3 points.
As Nick mentioned there, hopefully there's a different lineup. And here's one I prepared earlier in true Blue Peter style. Are you ready for it? Wholesale changes from John. I'll let everyone else comment on this. So I've got Maxwell in net. I've got Husband back in his left back. I'm bringing in Spud. I'm leaving Keogh in there. Conley at right back. Ward and Dougal holding midfielders. I'm playing Luke Garber in an advanced role on the left-hand side. I'm pushing Keshi in the number 10 role. Bowler's coming in on the right. I'm dropping Jerry Yates. And I'm starting Lavery. So who wants to slag me off first with that?
I will.
Go on, Joe.
Not to be fair, though, I do like that team. I'd just swap Lavery for Yates and bring Lavery on the last 25, 20 minutes. But apart from that, I do actually like that team. I think it's better to play Ekpiteta, an actual centre-back, than Husband. Obviously, we're going to have to just make do with playing Connolly at right back until we bring one in. Dougal, obviously, you're going to have question marks over his match fitness, but the only way he's going to get over that is by playing minutes. I like the fact that you've pushed Garber up the pitch and you've put Keshi in a more natural position instead of wasted out wide. And yeah, I like Lavery. I think he's a great player and I think he does deserve minutes. I'd start with Jerry because I think it'll be very much a case of like last season. When he bags his first, I think he'll go on a run.
Matt, again, we were talking pre-show about Keshi, and I think he's absolutely wasted on the left-hand side. It's not his game, and I think he has to play that number 10 role or not at all. And one of Yates or Lavery has to give way. And for me, Lavery's done enough. And I think it's good to drop Yates every now and then just to keep him on his toes, perhaps.
I think it would kill his confidence personally if he was dropped. I think so. I don't think he needs to be dropped. We just said 15 minutes ago he hasn't had the ball to his feet for 2 games, has he?
Squad utilisation. No,
I don't.
Have a bad miss at Bristol City. He's missed a lot in pre-season.
I don't disagree that there's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 possible changes. I think Ekpiteta has to get involved. I would like to see him at the back. I'd be interested perhaps in playing Spud, Keogh and Connolly as a back 3, possibly. The only issue that I've got then when I think about that, thinking out loud, is that we would probably have Dimmy Mitchell possibly on the right-hand side or similar. So we're just short of the right players in the right positions, aren't we? So we might be a bit restricted in what we can do. Whether Casey's going to get a look in, the lad from Leeds. He hasn't got involved yet. I don't know. It's like we said right at the start, we could have 6,000 different selections between 6,000 of us probably. And one of us will get it right, I'm sure. But it's going to be so difficult. I think Dougal has to play again. I don't know if Stewart's fit, but as soon as I see Dougal and Stewart together, I feel a lot more confident in us being able to be a bit more combative in the middle of the park. I think Yates has to play probably with Yates up top with Bowler and Keshi just behind him, and Lavery possibly on the left where he finished the game. So it's a difficult one. Yeah, possibly.
Nick, Keogh in that back four, do you think he's justified his place there? Or is that an area where we could put
yes and no? Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at the comments, I'd like to see Lavery and Yates together. I think Sean, it might have gone off the page now, would put 3-5-2 up on his comment. Yeah, so Maxwell, Connolly, Marv, Husband, Bowler, Dougal, Ward, Keshi, Garbett, Lavery and Yates. I'd like to see that myself. But as always, we all pick these teams and then it's none of us ever get it right, do we? Mm-hmm. So we will see.
Joe, any final thoughts on the team just before we move on?
Yeah, we could do with some bodies back. We could do with the likes of Stewart. I think, for me, our best centre-back pairing last season was Gretterson and Epter. But obviously now with Connolly, you've got other options. I know that Matt wasn't a huge fan, but I think Keogh offers a bit of championship experience, which I'm sure is why Critchley signed him. Mm-hmm. We're not going to see Connolly at centre back until a right back comes in.
Yeah,
I'd much prefer seeing Connolly at right back. At the minute, it's just a case of a couple of square pegs in round holes and making do till we get to the end of the window.
Yep. Okay, just before we go, then let's do a few fun segments. They played for both. Now, can anybody think? Oh, Matt, just before we move on, it was 1-1 and Barry Bannon scored a screamer. I don't know if you've seen in the comments.
Yeah, I remember it as soon as somebody mentioned it. Yeah, it was a volley from 20 yards or 25 yards, wasn't it, or something? Yeah.
Matthew Warrender, thanks, Matthew. Yes, it was. Was it the Barry Bannon goal when we drew 1-1? It was.
Indeed, yeah.
Halcyon days, eh? Right, they played for both. Listeners, viewers, etc. Give us some players who've played for both. The one I can think of is Klaus Jorgensen comes to memory first.
Andy Morel.
Andy Keogh.
Who?
Andy Morel.
Andy Morel, Andy Keogh.
Keogh.
Not enough for Keoghs. Shoot on it another one, do yeah, Morel.
In the comments. So we've got
some of a certain vintage there, aren't there?
Keogh against his former club tomorrow. Tommy Hutchinson for those of a certain vintage. Dave Bamber from Jacko. Tommy Hutchinson from Ray. Steve Hutchin, Jorgensen, Richard Keogh, Derby tomorrow night.
John Fleck.
John Fleck, did he play for them?
Pretty sure he did, yeah.
Andy Morel from Steve. Tommy Hutchin again, another one for Dave Bamber. Hutch.
Les Seeley.
Les Seeley?
Goalkeeper.
Was he that Mr. Angry goalkeeper?
He was, yeah.
From Man United.
Craven. Is that John Craven, Mel? Guessing not.
Yeah, it will be.
Billy Ronson, for those of a certain vintage.
Neil Wood. Good shout.
Neil Wood? Who's that?
Sort of bald-headed midfielder, wasn't he? From memory.
Can't remember them. Anyway, right. So just before we head off, news and talking points. Let's call it Nick's news for a laugh. Oh, I haven't got the video clip. Maybe not then. News and talking points. Ethan Laird has gone to Swansea, Nick. What's the first thing you think of when you hear of that name?
Fire!
Burn, baby, burn. Disco Inferno. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a player I'd heard about until I think it was Alan Nixon mentioned it on Twitter on Sunday, and by that time he was obviously, I think he'd been at Swansea's game at the weekend, so was probably never going to happen. Whether that means we've given up on getting Gabriel from Forest, I don't know, but he's gone, so we move on to the next target, and hopefully there is one, because we need one in very soon. So don't know a lot about the lad, but he was already in talks with Swansea, so I think it was an outside chance we'd have got him probably.
Trouble at the Armfield, outside the Armfield after the match. This has happened twice now, hasn't it? With the away fans being let out at the same time.
I was there. It wasn't in the Armfield. It was outside.
Outside, yeah.
For some reason, I don't know why the police have decided to walk away fans up that way. I mean, we've all been going a long time, and I can't ever remember it happening before. It's a weird one, and all right, people have got to behave themselves, but you've just lost 2-0, and then there's 1,800 Cardiff fans walking past, and tempers are running high, and as an away fan, when you come out of a ground, how many times is there a police cordon there and they tell you you're going in that direction, whether you like it or not, even if your car's 2 minutes that way, and you're off on a walk for 20 minutes. But it's a weird one. I don't get it. The lads at the Armfield Club have worked really hard. Steady on. I was not at all.
Turned the corner and Nick was twatting coppers, I heard.
I was not involved. What
Nick says is true, though, about police cordons. Sorry for interrupting you. I can remember when Rotherham played Blackpool at the New York Stadium, and after the game, obviously with me living in Rotherham, I needed to go to the bus station, and the police were blocking me off, and I'm like, I live in Rotherham. Well, because I was wearing my Blackpool shirt, it made me go all the way around with the Blackpool fans. I was like, I live in Rotherham. I was telling them what street. I don't care that way.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like I say, them deciding to walk away fans that way, because they've never done it as far as I know in all the years I've been going. So,
do you think they'll end up delaying away fans leaving the stadium?
I was talking about that the weekend. Apparently, you can only do that if you apply for a court injunction, which costs money. Now, I know we haven't got Owen Oyston and Carl Oyston involved, but it still costs money. And I don't think the club are going to go down that route. So, presumably, it's then up to the police to police it better somehow. But surely that costs money. So I don't know where, I don't know what the answer is, but they really do need to think about it.
Surely the finger of blame points at the police then, doesn't it? Like you say, Matt, policing the game, and they get paid all the money, don't they?
Yeah.
They get paid for policing the stadium.
Yeah, it has to. And, we're going to get pretty much 2,000 away fans almost every game, aren't we? I would imagine. There's going to be a lot of teams that will bring a lot of fans. And just imagine.
Imagine that against Preston. Imagine that against
Just
Preston.
about to say the same thing. Just about to say it. It'd be like bloody Kabul out there, wouldn't it? It'd be horrendous. So, yeah, I know they've put a statement out, the lads from the Armfield Club, and I'm sure we've got a decent relationship with Blackpool Police, so I'm sure there'll be open ears and hopefully get some sort of solution to this self-created problem, it would seem.
It'll be a war against Preston, though, won't it? Imagine that. It'll be going off.
I mean, if only there was some car parks in Blackpool that away fans could park in, that the coaches could park in.
So just on the subject of fan experience, if you want to call it that, in the stadium, trying to get a drink, it's just horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. I know they're restricted by the way the concourses are all laid out and that, but the bottle bars weren't open, and they weren't pre-poured. From what I could see, they weren't pre-pouring pints, and you cannot get a drink, and it's just a bad experience down there. And the reason why I bring this up is because when I was in the Armfield sticking a few posters up, I got chatting to a bloke in there, and he said he's kind of a floating fan, and he said he won't come. He generally won't go on just on the odd occasion. He says 'cause it's a really bad experience within the stadium. He says it's too busy. You can't get a drink. What I know that they're hamstrung by the way the concourses are laid out, but there's things you can do, and I think it does need looking at, doesn't it, in the future? Not moaning or anything, but I think it's a problem.
Go on, Nick, you go for it.
Well, I think the thing is now with who we've got in charge, they'll get that feedback and they'll know where it's gone wrong, and I think they'll do something about it. And I think that's as much as you can ask for. Like someone's mentioned there, the bottle bars not being open. That can make a big difference. If you get 4 or 5 of those going, you've not got as big a queue at the main bar.
I'd imagine that'd be due to COVID, wouldn't it?
Possibly. And yeah, they are restricted with space. But I'm sure they'll have a bit of a debrief with what went on, because like Dave Jacko says there, they're losing revenue. If you think how many more people would have had a pint at half time, it's all money, isn't it? So I'm sure they'll want to do something about it. Could be a staffing issue. That seems to be a lot of shortages around various places at the moment. It might be that, I don't know, but hopefully they'll learn from it, and it'll get better as the season goes on.
It's a shame that you can't just swap concourses. The concourse in the south is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Whereas the concourse in the north's tiny.
I suggested, and I didn't do anything formal about it, but I've mentioned this somewhere in the past, that with us going to Accrington last year and previous years, and they have that marquee outside the ground, don't they? I'm sure they could sacrifice some parking spaces in that north car park area, stick something there, and just make it a
half-time
marquee bar or whatever. All that sort of stuff. Even if it's just on the way in, because we got in the ground at 2:00 for 2 reasons. One, we had no faith in the season ticket / turnstile operations, so we decided to go in really early. Plus, you know what it's like. You only have 10 people in a queue, and it can take you 20 minutes sometimes. Yeah. And 2, to get a beer, and we got a drink. And that was it. That was our only chance. And obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You sort of look behind you at 2:20, and there's 500 people in a queue, and you're not going to get a second one. So that was it. But it's lost revenue. It's bad. It's just bad business. And I don't know whether it is all these reasons that were mentioned about staffing and so forth. But it's not been right for a long time. And somebody seriously needs to have a long, hard look at how they can make these better for the home fans and the customer experience, to quote a phrase.
Yeah. The one thing that confuses me, the connecting tunnel between the north and the west. Why are you not allowed to take drinks down there? I mean, they could even set a temporary bar up in that area.
That was cordoned off, wasn't it, on Saturday? Did you notice?
Yeah.
We went in on turnstile 3 and 4, and as soon as we went in, we noticed there's barriers up, not allowing you to go to the west sort of area to have a pee or a pint or whatever.
It's ridiculous. We need to write a strongly worded letter to the SLO.
Yeah. Well, it'll encourage people, quite frankly, to take other things in, shall we say, for their halftime entertainment. So,
Yeah. I was even thinking of taking a hip flask. Because if I stop drinking, I get really bad headaches. I know it makes me sound like
a raging
alcoholic.
Bit of a worry, that, John.
I only had 2 pints pre-match, and I always get if I drink in the afternoons and I stop, I just get a raging headache.
Yeah, football match headaches when you've had a few pints and then you have a break. Yeah.
Well, we had 2 though.
That's why you need one at half time.
Yeah, exactly. You need to top up that. So Simon, if you're listening, get it sorted. Please.
Where I sit up at the east, there's the top of E Block. There's like a little box area where you go in, like through the NHS to get to the balcony area. And there's no stewards up there. I might bring in a cheese board tomorrow or something.
I'd like to see it, Joe.
Bit of half-time brie or something.
Yeah. Throw some Wensleydale at the away fans or something.
A bit of port, bit of port to wash it down with. Tim would be all over that, wouldn't he? Right, we're on around 5, so I think we'll call it a day. Been a great chat, gentlemen. So been a great show. So we're going to be coming back on a preview show Thursday, doing a bit of a preview of Bournemouth and reviewing Cov. You want to say something, Nick?
Yeah, we're going to do quick predictions for tomorrow night.
Go on then.
I will go 2-1 to the Pool.
Joe.
I'm going to go 1-1 Yates for Blackpool and O'Hare for Coventry.
I was going to go 1-1 as well, and I'm going to go Martin Waghorn because he's the only player I've heard of in our team. Matt.
2-1 Coventry. Boo Boys will be out. I was going to go 1-1, but Joe's nicked it.
Oh, I've done that as well. Yeah, got to be different, right, everybody. So, thanks for joining us on the Seasiders podcast. Your input has made the show fantastic as ever, and all remains to be said is thanks for watching, thanks for downloading, and we'll speak to you on Thursday. And up the pool,
up the pool. Rizdale in.